Welcome back, everybody. My name is Hunter Farris. I'm joined, as always, by my co-host Bryan Schink. We are not Venom. We are Film Talk. Welcome to the show.
All right, as he said, welcome back, everybody. Dude, it is awesome to be back here. I've taken a slight hiatus from YouTube, just slight week. Um, it feels good to be back in the hot seat. So, before we get into the recap, how are you doing, man? How's your week been?
I've been sick as a dog, uh, but after that, I've been good.
Well, that is good. That's good. And hopefully, you get a little bit better, a lot better as time progresses. Um, but I think
Working on
things
it. We'll see what happens.
Well, that is very good. But I think things are about to get even better for everybody because, ladies and gentlemen, today marks episode 1 of this year's Spider-Cember. I haven't made any announcement of it except for. No, I haven't made any announcement on this channel of it. So, this is going to be the first time you hear about it. So, if you're new, welcome. Today, we're going to be talking about Venom. But before we get into that, I'm gonna explain what Spider-Cember is for the everybody who doesn't know what it is. Um, so our goal is we're gonna be watching and reviewing all 10 of the canon Spider-Man live-action films to the MCU. I say canon like that because we're doing Venom and Let There Be Carnage, which not gonna spoil anything until next week. Um, but we're also doing the original Sam Raimi Spider-Man trilogy, the Amazing Spider-Man films, and Into the Spider-Verse, up until the Homecoming trilogy, obviously. But the reason we're doing Spider-Verse is because it's a Spider-Verse film, and we're about to go into a Spider-Verse film. So, with that, it's 11 films. It's 1 month. This is Spider-Cember, and so now you know. So let's get into Venom. So the
I feel like Bryan also said the 11 canon Spider-Man films because I kept pitching all these other
oh
movies
my
that are
god.
definitely not part of the canon of the Spider-Man films. So back in 1977, there was an amazing Spider-Man movie. In 1978, there was the Japanese Spider-Man movie,
Oh,
which was
Spider-Man.
released to theaters. It technically counts. There was Three Dev Adam, which kind of like Japanese Spider-Man was an unlicensed Spider-Man adaptation from like Bollywood, I want to say, can't remember. And there
Oh,
was Italian Spider-Man, which is a parody of Three Dev Adam and Spider-Man, which
it's
is an
just
unlicensed
Mario, but in
adaptation.
a
And we
Spider-Man
went
costume.
I still think it'd be absolutely hilarious if in No Way Home they bring back like Japanese Spider-Man and they bring back Reeve Carney from Spider-Man Turn Off the Dark.
I hope I hope we get references to some of the other properties. I don't think we're gonna get a full on reveal of Spider-Man, but I wouldn't be surprised if we get a reference to the '60s Spider-Man show cartoon, not cartoon, yeah, the '60s one with the where the pointing meme came from.
Yeah. That's the
Um,
one where the song Spider-Man comes
yes,
from.
yes. Oh, I forgot what year that was. I was thinking Spider-Man the animated series from the '90s. But that's another good one that they can cross over, that they can reference as well. Especially now that the X-Men are coming back with X-Men '97. I think that
That's true.
because now we're getting Spider-Man freshman year, so there's precedent at this point. Um, but no, I do one of these days. I do want to do reviews of the older Spider-Man movies, like Spider-Man and the '77 Amazing Spider-Man film. Um, but because of how much we have to do as it is for Spider-Cember in terms of 11 different movies in less than 17 days, I think we should stick to what's going to be canon or just Spider-Verse cuz Into the Spider-Verse is incredible.
So we're not talking about like Three Dev Adam, which like I will say, Japanese Spider-Man is shown briefly in Spider-Verse.
I
Very
did see
briefly.
that. I did see that. There was also the
And
Spider-Man meme. That one weird. Oh, I forget what film that was in. Because I know Sonic appeared in the Sonic film, and then there was that one like weird like big-headed Spider-Man meme that showed up in a Spider-Man film or a film. It might not even have been Spider-Man. Let me see if I can pull it up real quick.
also, Phil Lord and Chris Miller, directors of Into the Spider-Verse, have said they really want to bring Japanese Spider-Man into Across the Spider-Verse.
Is that what
I have
they're
no idea
officially
what they're
calling
going
it?
to.
Is that what they're officially calling Spider-Verse 2?
I have heard that that is the official title. I have also heard that that is not the official title. I don't know what's going on anymore.
Oh. Okay. I'm gonna send this to you real quick. This is the
I
meme I
do
was
love
telling you
that
about.
title.
Oh, definitely. Oh, what just happened? Okay. Yeah. A lot of this, like me looking for this meme, is probably gonna get cut out, mostly because I just messed up the recording slightly. Um. But here, let me. This is the meme I am referring to. Oh, come on. Here we go. Come on. You gonna finish saving? And of course you did that. Good lord.
Along the same lines, I am really hoping that Spider-Verse 3 is titled Spider-Man Out of the Spider-Verse.
Oh, that.
Because I think that'd be so awesome!
So what? Okay, real quick, while we're on like naming for Spider Verse and stuff. So
Huh?
Suicide Squad. The original one was just titled Suicide Squad. This one, like the new one, is The Suicide Squad. And I have a pitch for a Suicide Squad movie titled Another Suicide Squad.
That is what I was really hoping you weren't going to say, and I love it.
And like I actually have this like this pitch that I would love to give to James Gunn. That is just like it takes elements from the DCEU as well as the CW universe because they're linked because of Crisis on Infinite Earths, and puts them into
Mm-hmm.
one big movie. And I think it would be really really like fun. But just to have the title just be like either another Spider-Verse, not a Spider-Verse, another Suicide Squad, or the Suicide Squad.
Suicide Squad.
Yeah, a Suicide Squad, or just the titles like
Yet
in.
another Suicide Squad.
Yeah.
Not another Suicide Squad.
Oh God, help us! It's another Suicide Squad.
They're Sharknado titles at this point.
But the precedent is there, and I think honestly, it's James Gunn. He's the same guy who named his Guardians of the Galaxy films Volume 1 and 2, just because like in universe that's something that is like it's a meta reference to in universe. The Suicide Squad is just corny. The whole thing, it's hilarious. It's a big comedy, and James Gunn is just ambitious enough to do it. So, I honestly think that that's what's going to end up happening. And if not, oh well. Anyway, we should get back to Venom at this point. Because at this point, we're talking about DC. Oh, we just sit here talk about everything that's not Venom.
What part of podcast did you not understand?
Well, originally this was supposed to be just like a regular show, not like a podcast, but like a review show, kind of like what Mr. Sunday Movies does. I don't know if you've seen any of his stuff, or like what New Rockstars does, where they just have like a review. But it's gone so far from just a review. It's now just a podcast. I might roll this in with the main Broken Valor podcast at this point, and just do one podcast a week. That's this show, because like, and then have like special segments.
Would you watched the movie like literally yesterday? Would you like to give a brief plot synopsis?
Yes. Yes, I did watch the movie just yesterday. I don't know. I don't remember too much of the plot. So that's fun. It's really indicative of this movie, I guess. But I'll give it a try. So Basic plot and spoilers for Venom, of course. But if you haven't seen it and you've clicked on this video, that's like what 3 years late after the movie came out, I think. I think it's been 3 years. I don't know. But if you clicked onto this video, I don't know. Anyway, so basic plot: Venom is a Clintar from another planet. He's a symbiote. His species name is Clintar. Clintar. A Clintarian? I think the plural is Clintarian. Is that what? Is that what they're called? I know they come from the planet Clintar.
I mean, the name of the alien race is never established in the movie.
Oh yeah, but like this is like context from the comics at least. But anyway, so
Clintar is the planet.
right. So what would that make it Clintarian? Or that just we'll just call them symbiotes. We'll say that 'cause that's what they use in the
That's what
film.
the movie calls them too.
All right. So, in the film, a spaceship launched by Carlton Drake, played by the wonderfully talented Riz Ahmed, returns to Earth carrying 5, I think, alien life forms known as symbiotes. They're these gooey alien substances. And once the ship crash lands back on Earth, most of them are retrieved safely. One of them escapes. That's important for later. That is foreshadowing, I think. I don't know how to do that. One of them is taken, like most of them are taken by Carlton Drake to be researched on. His motivation is make humanity immortal, I guess. That's at least what I got from the film. Our main character, though, is a character by the name of Eddie Brock. He's played by Tom Hardy, another amazing actor. He is a video journalist within the film, and he has, I guess, one of the best like journalism shows on like TV at the time. During the course of the film, Eddie Brock and Venom meet up. Venom is one of the symbiotes. They bond together to become, well, Venom. Big hulking alien monster-looking thing, and they spend the entire film biting people's heads off and going to fight Carlton Drake in the end. And I don't remember what happened for most of the middle, at least plot-wise. But really, these films, and I'm gonna say this, I don't watch them for the plot. At least these two films, Venom and Let There Be Carnage, I don't watch them for the plot. I like these films because the symbiotes look freaking incredible. Like, it's
That design for the
so
symbiotes
good.
looks awesome.
I especially love their goo form because it looks
Mm-hmm.
personally it looks so much better than what Spider-Man 3 accomplished, and that just goes to show how good VFX can come in like a decade or two. It's insane. Anyway,
I
so
will say, I personally think Spider-Man 3 did a really good job with the symbiote effects.
I agree. For its time, I think it did really good. I've always been more of a fan of the goopy symbiote, like what we get from Venom, rather than like the more stringy thing that we got from Spider-Man 3. Which never really like worked for me all that well, but I will admit it. Well, they were some good effects, especially for the time. Um,
Mhm.
all right.
I looked it up. The
Go ahead.
symbiotes, we don't have a confirmation of the name of their species, but they have been called Clintar in the past. They have also been called Symbian.
Okay. So, a little bit of comic knowledge I picked up before we get into the film again, because this is tangent central. In the comics, the
What
planet of
part of
Clint.
podcast did you not understand?
Exactly. You're over here. The camera's over here. But you're over here. But in the comics, did you know that the planet of Clintar is actually a living being? It's actually a symbiote itself. Because so
Whoa,
So
that's
origins of the
cool.
symbiotes. Here we go. In the comics, Null. Have you heard of the character Null before?
I have. Let's get into it like really deep for the sake of the audience because I really, really want Null to be included in Venom 3.
I think we're gonna get Null much sooner than Venom 3 because, well, we'll get to that. So Null is like this. It's like a godlike being in the Marvel comics. Think of him as a godlike being. That's really the best way that I can describe it. But in the comics, he creates the symbiote race. He's known as the symbiote god. He created the Clintarians as sort of like a mindless hive mind, like killing machine for him. He wanted them to like kill Celestials. Their original intent was to kill, like Tiamat or Arishem or like the Celestials of the Marvel comics. And after like they kind of like gained sentience and stuff, they went off on their own, and many of the symbiotes like bonded together to create the planet of Clintar, and then more symbiotes like from across the galaxy all migrated to this living planet and like lived there. They live there now. However, Null is he's much more like commonly known going forward as the creator of the I forget what the sword is called. It's not the Ebony Blade. It's the sword that Gore the God Butcher uses. It is the Necro Sword. All Black the Necro Sword. That's what it's called. And All Black the Necro Sword is a sort of semi symbiote in and of itself. So it can like grow on its own. It like, emerges from its host, and it is powerful enough to slice the head off of a Celestial, which is what happened to Nowhere, which I think we've talked about this in the past. I hope we see that in Thor Love and Thunder, because Gore is the big bad. Which is why I think we'll see Null at like in Thor 4 at some level, even if it's just like a flashback or like an animated sequence. But yeah, that is the basic like creation of the symbiotes. They were created by Null, and then they formed a planet, a living planet, basically Ego, but slimy. And then every other symbiote comes from there.
So the MCU is slimy enough as he is.
Oh no, he's just downright despicable. Ego, the living planet, is a downright despicable being. Which I kind of wish we get to see. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say I'm still absolutely amazed at this point in comic book movies where like we are dealing with Ego the living planet, and we're dealing with multiverses, and we're dealing with like magic robots, and we're dealing with like I was about to get into some stuff from Let There Be Carnage and figured we'll save that for another week, but just like the fact that these things even exist is amazing to me.
Oh, it is it's exciting. And they're not just magic robots, they're magic robot gods.
Yes, also the Celestials. I forgot.
Oh, I thought you were talking about the I forgot about Ultron. I thought you were talking about the Celestials.
Yeah, the fact that like we're getting Celestials, the fact that we can say Tiamat and Arishem, and people know what we're like. I didn't know who those were until 2 months ago.
Right. Only reason that I knew of them beforehand is because I am big nerd, and I was on the internet when Guardians of the Galaxy came around, and I was watching all of New Rockstar's videos back then, and I still am. It's kind of a depressing life when you realize exactly how much New Rockstars I watch on a daily basis.
So, jumping back to Venom.
That's probably a good idea.
Most of the second act is essentially Eddie trying to get into. I haven't watched this movie in like 3 weeks. Feel terrible.
It's all good. It's all good. I think Eddie getting into
Carlton Drake's. Most of the movie is Eddie. Most of the second act is Eddie trying to get into Carlton Drake's secure vault system in order to prove whether Carlton Drake is or is not doing unethical experiments on his human subjects.
Right.
Which, because he's a scientist in a movie going to be unethical. I'm sorry, I used to work with academics. Like, that was my job, to interview professional researchers. And so, like, every time I see a scientist in a movie, I'm like, that's unethical, and that's unethical, and that's unethical, and that is really unethical. Oh my gosh, that would get you jailed. And that's
Right.
kind of the point. Like, he actually cool stuff, and they want you to know this is extremely unethical. He is the bad guy as he tries to make humans ready to explore the solar system by bonding them with symbiotes.
Right. Right.
Um,
Although
and like, go ahead, go ahead.
I think that was like all of like I think that was Act 1 because I know we get Venom in this film for at least half of Act 2 and all of Act 3, but I think it was more. I think Act 2 was Eddie's struggle with Venom. I think Act 1 was the setup of the characters, and then the end of Act 1 was Eddie and Venom bonding. Then we had between the end of Act 1 and the midpoint in Act 2 was sort of the struggle between the two, and then the first confrontation with Riot. Although no, there wasn't a was there a confrontation with Riot in the middle of the film? No, the midpoint was when Eddie and Venom were separated by Anne and Dan, the boyfriend guy.
There is a lot that happens in this movie.
Oh, there is a lot. And then you compare it to Venom: Let There Be Carnage, and it's like, wow, that film had like 4 things in it. This thing has like 30.
To be fair, Let There Be Carnage is literally half an hour shorter.
Oh, I know. You feel it. It feels even shorter than that, though. It's the strange thing.
So, what are some things that you thought were awesome about the Venom movie, the 2018 Venom movie, not Let There Be Carnage?
Right. So I loved how they like portrayed Venom. But I also have a love-hate relationship with it because I think that the look is amazing. I love how like slippery he looked. I love the transformation. I love the white veins and stuff. However, and there's an asterisk here, because as much as I love the design, I don't feel like it's Venom. It doesn't feel like Venom to me. Is the issue. Like if this were just another movie and it had nothing to do with Venom, the Spider-Man villain, this probably would be like one of the greatest movies, in my opinion, of all time. However, because it's trying to adapt Venom, I don't know. Because like Venom has all that baggage from the comics and stuff. But I'll save that all for another time. I don't want to be too overly negative. Because this film was just a freaking blast. I loved the comedy in this film. Go ahead.
I do want to ask, though. Tell me about what Venom is to you. What makes him Venom?
So, to me, Venom is obsessed with Spider-Man to a negative degree. He's a Spider-Man villain. Eddie Brock specifically will always be the journalistic rival to Peter Parker, the big, strong, buff guy who gets a symbiote who is just as angry as he is with Peter Parker / Spider-Man. So like he will always be that, either that pure villain who has that connection to Spider-Man, or he'll be the anti-hero that reluctantly works with Spider-Man but still fights Spider-Man. To me, he's nothing without Spider-Man is the issue.
So it sounds like to me that you're saying that to you, what makes him Venom is his relationship with Spider-Man.
Yeah, that because in the comics he shoots webs, like the same kind of webs as Spider-Man. He has spider sense like Spider-Man, and he's got the big freaking spider emblem on his chest. And all 3 of those things were gained from his time.
Good point.
Right. But yeah, all 3 of those things were gained from his time bonded to Spider-Man. Like the ability to make web fluid, the spider sense in the spider. He changed his body to match Spider-Man because he thought Spider-Man was the perfect host for him. And when you do a film that is Venom without Spider-Man, you don't get that connection because there's no Spider-Man for him to have bonded with. And so that's why I
And then,
say, oh, go ahead.
oh, and then for me to understand better, do you think that there are other things that make him Venom, or is it basically just his relationship with Spider-Man?
I personally, mostly the relationship with Spider-Man, like, cause no matter what, he will always be a symbiote. But there are tons of symbiotes, and I think what makes Venom the character Venom is his, like, at least the Eddie Brock version is the love-hate relationship with Spider-Man. And everything that he gained from Spider-Man, the iconic look with the spider, that's Spider-Man. Now, they did a really good job of not using Spider-Man, and I have no complaints with it. Um, but at the same time, it doesn't feel like the Venom I'm used to, which is, of course, going to be biased because I love the character of Venom in approximation to Spider Man. Which is why I say, like, if this film was made by, like, an indie artist, like, this was an indie film about a symbiote that bonds to a human, this would be an amazing film. And it still is an amazing film. I just don't know if it's an amazing Venom film, if that makes any lick of sense.
So along those lines, and I'm mostly asking just to understand where you're coming from.
Right.
A list of all of Venom's hosts, and realizing that like almost all of these are Spider-Man characters.
Oh, definitely.
Not a lot of them are Spider-Man characters. Dylan Brock, Eddie Brock, Jessica Drew, Flash Thompson, uh,
Don't forget the T Rex.
Matt Morgan, uh, Quentin Beck, obviously Peter Parker, Cletus Cassidy, Otto Octavius, uh, that to have Doc Ock venomized. But there are
Right.
some times when he's been bonded to a non-Spider-Man character. He was bonded to Sue Storm, Samson, Rock Devil Dino, which sounds awesome. Oh my gosh,
Yes.
it's a Venomite T-Rex.
Oh,
And
that was
during those times,
yeah, that was from the Old Man Logan story event, I think it was, where they were traveling across the country in in Spider-Man's dune buggy thing, like in the Spider-Mobile. It was Wolverine and Hawkeye, I think it was. And they passed through the skeletal remains of Giant Man Hank Pym and past a venomized Tyrannosaurus Rex. I'm sorry, continue. I just went out a little bit
holy moly.
there. I
Um,
love that
and the
storyline.
reason why I bring that up is because um, when he genuinely is not somebody, when he's genuinely bonded to somebody who is not a Spider-Man character, like Carol Danvers or Reed Richards or Bruce Banner, do you feel like that makes him not really Venom, and he might as well be interchangeable with any other symbiote at this point? Or that's still Venom to me.
Right. And so in that those scenarios, because he had that original bonding to Spider-Man, he has the same person, a similar personality, like in those scenarios, and they're never like long lived. It's not like Carol Danvers gets Venom for like 30 issues. It's usually like a one off. He bonds to Carol and then bonds back to Eddie, or he bonds to a character and then bonds back to Peter. And in those scenarios, like if it's like an isolated case, as long as he's like still the Venom who originally bonded to Spider-Man, then yeah, he still does feel like the same Venom. But it's the origin, it's the origin type thing that is always gonna be a little weird to me. But that doesn't mean that it's not a great character. It's just it's a very weird feeling, I guess, that I have with this film that can always be just be summed
That's
up
yeah.
to the bias that I have for the classic from the animated series. Because that's where I was first
So,
introduced to Venom.
yeah, and that's kind of why I bring it up. I'm not like attacking your opinions at all. I'm just
Right.
like genuinely trying to explore and figure out what makes him Venom to you. And it sounds like it's the relationship, but also the personality. And part of the reason for that is because no such thing as comic accurate. There
Right.
is because there are so many comics that you can only be accurate to one comic, or you can take bits and pieces from various comics. And when we have a character in our minds, when we have an idea of who Venom is, it's generally based off of a smattering of different ideas from different comics and video games and movies, and most of what Venom is to me is based off of either the 2000 Spider-Man video game. Let me double check that it's the 2000 Spider-Man video game. Yes, the 2000 Spider-Man video game, or it's based off of Let There Be Carnage and TikTok.
Yes.
So, with that in mind, I'm like, yeah, this feels very much like Venom because this is the version that I'm basing my understanding of Venom off of. And so I'm kind of just coming into this asking, well, what is your version of Venom? What makes him Venom to you?
Right, and that's a very that is a very good, like, we'll all have different like ideas of what any character is, especially when it's a character so dependent in the comics on a character like Venom. Like in the comics, if he never bonded to Spider-Man, I don't think Venom would be Venom. He'd be like, I don't know, Carnage or Toxin or any of these other symbiotes, because they're all, in the beginning, they're all very similar. They don't have that different of a personality until they bond to their host, which is where they get their personality. Which, another tangent, did you know, I don't think it's canon, but before Venom bonded to Spider-Man, he bonded to Deadpool. And that's why Venom is so messed up.
I'm sorry, I missed that. Before he bonded to Spider-Man, he bonded to who?
Deadpool. The merc with a mouth. And that's why he's so messed up when he bonds to Spider-Man. Why he changes Spider-Man so much is because, like, I don't know if it's canon. I forget what comic story it is. But in the story, Deadpool is on the ship during Secret Wars that Spider-Man goes to get, and how he ends up with Venom. And he goes over to the machine and hits the button, and he bonds with Venom. And they're bonded for like a minute before, without help from sound or heat, I don't think, Deadpool unbonds himself and Venom just by himself, puts him back in the machine, and is like, I don't want to subjugate this creature to my mind. But Venom was in there for long enough that he's already seen the twisted crap that's in Deadpool's mind, and is already just like, it just gone insane.
Okay. I kind of wish this were an episode of Actually. That is canon.
That is canon?
I just checked.
That is canon?
That is canon.
What? Are you? Oh
So
my
I'm looking
gosh.
I'm looking on the Marvel Wiki under Venom's symbiote and I'm quoting here. The symbiote's first human host was Deadpool, who came across his prison while in Battleworld and, hoping for a makeover, wore the creature for a few minutes before realizing it was alive and interfacing. Learned that his insanity would adversely affect it. Deadpool returned the symbiote to its prison moments before the arrival of Spider-Man, whose own suit has been damaged in the battle happening outside.
I love when retcons and stuff are canon, especially the insane stuff like that. What year? I gotta figure out what year that story was published in at one point. Because
that was during Secret Wars.
Well, no, because the Deadpool aspect of it was added later. Because during Secret Wars, we knew Spider-Man got it, but we didn't learn that Deadpool got the symbiote until like much later. Because that was something that was added on to the story. Because the original Battleworld story didn't have Deadpool, I don't think.
Oh, I double checked. It's Deadpool Secret Wars number 3.
Of course, that's the title.
That after the introduction of Gwenpool. Anyway,
I love Deadpool.
I do think that as far as like doing a Venom having Spider-Man in it, they did a surprisingly good job. Like,
I agree.
I went into this thinking that like you said, that his relationship with Spider-Man is a huge part of what makes him Venom. Don was like, you know what? As a what if Venom never bonded to Peter story, that worked really well.
I definitely do agree. And as I said, all of my complaints aren't really complaints. They're just, I don't know, little things here and there. Because all in all, I liked this movie a lot. Like I know on YouTube in that era, not many people were like really all that positive about the film, but I did enjoy it.
So, what are some things that you enjoyed about it?
Well, I loved the
We were talking about
relationship.
the character design.
Um, I loved the relationship between like Eddie and Venom, especially. All of their scenes together were hilarious and heartwarming. And oh, I just hit my microphone. It's a much better representation, I think, of the dual nature of Venom and Eddie than we got in Spider-Man 3. Although that Spider-Man 3 didn't really try to do the dual representation, they just wanted Venom in the film because it was a studio mandate.
Yeah,
Um,
that's, yeah, like the dual relationship wasn't what they were going for, and that's okay. The 2000 video game, which is like half of my understanding of Venom, also did not have the dual relationship. Like it felt like Venom and Eddie were just one. It felt like Venom
right.
was one person, and Venom felt to Eddie as Spider-Man was to Peter Parker in that particular game. So it seems like that's like a what's the word? A legitimate take on Venom.
Yeah.
But I want the relationship, and I'm like, no, I'm with you. The relationship between Venom and Eddie in this movie is great. The fact that not only can they talk to each other, but they can disagree and have to like come to genuine consensus on things is great.
Exactly. And it's touched upon a lot more in Let There Be Carnage, but they really they tried to depict the relationship between Venom and Eddie as like a married couple sort of relationship, or like a boyfriend girlfriend, or boyfriend boyfriend, or girlfriend girlfriend. How it doesn't really matter, but just like a romantic style relationship and how they talked to each other and how they bickered and all that sort of stuff. Um, and as I said, they really expand upon it in Let There Be Carnage. But I think it really works as a metaphor for like how like Eddie and Venom's like being more of like because they're technically like they're literally connected, whereas in marriage you're technically connected to your spouse. They are literally connected to each other in this film.
Yeah. Along those lines, I don't think this movie was the time for like the boyfriend girlfriend kind of talk. But I do think this movie was the time for like the rom com,
Oh,
the
definitely.
meet cute, and the misunderstandings, and the getting to know each other, and the learning to live together, not quite live together, but kind of live together. Uh, I feel like that's what this movie was trying to do. And Let There Be Carnage was more along the lines of like the married couple, boyfriend and boyfriend thing.
Well, yeah.
Along the lines of gender, Venom takes on whatever gender his host is currently having.
Oh, yeah. And he also takes on well in this film, however, he would take on the voice of that character. So, cool piece of trivia: the voice of Venom when he is Venom, the goo, is Tom Hardy with like distortion on him. The voice of Venom when he
Yes,
is
right.
Venom bonded to Eddie is Tom Hardy with the same distortion. But when he's bonded to Anne, it is Anne's actress with the distortion put on her voice. However, Venom Let There Be Carnage completely threw that out of the window and made Eddie Venom's voice Tom Hardy, no matter whose body he was in, which is one thing I didn't really like about Let There Be Carnage, because I really liked that he would take on the personality of whoever he was bonded to, and now he's just like, oh, I'm bonded to Joe Schmo Pizza Guy. Oh, I look like regular Venom and I talk like Tom Hardy. But that's for the Let There Be Carnage video, because that doesn't have any bearing to this film. So, Oh, I wanted to ask you a question about the film, and I just lost it. Um,
Yeah, sure.
oh God, I lost it. It'll come back to me.
No worries whatsoever. Um, I also think that this movie has a really interesting relationship with the Zero Boom. Uh, for context, so I define the superhero boom being 2008 to the present, not to be confused with the superhero renaissance being 2000 to 2008. So the superhero boom starting with Iron Man, and one of the questions that the superhero boom has constantly been posing is, are superheroes actually good people, or do we just believe that because the word hero is in the name?
Right.
Here's the thing: the super Venom came out 10 years in the superhero boom. By this point, dark subversive superhero movies were not the norm, but a norm. They weren't. They were simply a type of superhero movie. It was almost a subgenre. Like, as far as dark subversive superhero movies go, this one did a really good job. Moments of Venom, of Eddie about to be a hero and then actively choosing to not be a hero. We had several moments of oh gosh, of Venom wanting to do bad things and Eddie trying to reel him in to be, I guess, an anti-hero technically by
Right.
only eating bad people. And I'm kind of curious what this movie would have been like if it had come out 9 years earlier. If it had come out in the same year as like Watchmen, when the superhero boom had just started, I feel like it would have been like extremely well received, and everyone would have been like, "This is the coolest superhero movie time."
Oh, definitely. However, if this film were made 9, 10 years ago, the quote about there being a pile of body and a pile of heads would not have just been a quote. It would have been a visual, especially if it was Zack Snyder making it. Because you know the quote I'm talking about. Eddie and Venom are talking. The guys are in the room, and he's like, "No, let's bite all the
Now
heads
let's
off and
bite off
pile
their
them in the
heads and leave a
corner."
pile of bodies.
He's like, "Pile them in the corner," and he's like, "What?" He's like, "Pile of body, pile of heads." But if this was made in like
I mean,
2009, I guarantee you we would have seen that. And this would not have been a PG-13 film. It would have been rated
oh
R
yeah,
heavily.
if this had if this had come out in the beginning of the superhero boom, it absolutely would have been an R-rated movie. Partly because, like, back then they were just barely getting used to the to dark, subversive, gory superhero movies, and so they were just like, "Yeah, let's party, let's do everything!" And I'm like,
Right.
"Yes, do everything, lean into it." And over the past 10 years or so, they've kind of been like, "Okay, okay, okay, yeah, that was cool, that was cool. We can tone it down now, but this is still cool."
Although I don't know, like now that I think about it, Venom really benefited from from Deadpool especially, from Deadpool and Logan, like proving that R-rated superhero movies can be good. And Venom, I think if they had made Venom rated R and put all that gore in, it still would have been good. I think many people would have thought it was better because there's a lot of people who hate this movie just because it's not gory, which I don't understand because why? But at the same time, I see why they would have expected Venom, a character known for ripping off the heads of his victims, to be rated R. But I'm glad it wasn't.
Yeah,
Honestly, I think it's very
about what makes Venom to us.
right. It's very easy to make an
Yeah,
R-rated Venom movie, but it's much harder to make a PG-13 rated Venom movie that people consider good. And I think they successfully did that.
yeah, we were talking at the beginning of the episode about like what makes him Venom to you, what makes him Venom to me. To me, the biting people's heads off is not a thing that is like to the character. I am just fine with him never biting off a single head. That's not something that's like core to the character to me, and apparently not core to the character to you. To me,
Right.
it's about the relationship between Eddie and Venom. The love. Okay, so I shouldn't say that it's about Let There Be Carnage is the relationship. To me, it's from ethic issues and from a couple TikTokers who talked about what they love about Venom. which is that they have this very loving, caring relationship that Venom Teddy. That like Venom is that Venom sets rules and boundaries for Eddie to make sure that he lives a good life. Whether it's acting as his personal alarm clock or in the morning or saying, nope, you're going to work. I know you don't want to, but you're going to work. That kind of stuff. Um, or, or as a complete opposite, Venom is a super. Those are kind of the Venom is two completely different characters in my mind,
Right.
and either one works just fine to me. But to other people, the biting off heads is really important to them. Like,
Right.
great. I'm glad you got some references. I do kind of wish for their sake that they got to see the biting off heads because I think it would be really interesting to see like no, let's go all the way. Let's go into an R-rated Venom movie. I also think it would have been interesting to go all the way into a rom-com Venom movie because essentially that's what this movie is. It's just from the opposite point of view.
Oh,
Um,
definitely.
it's like it's and along lines, so there's a very small micro genre of the going native story. Pocahontas, Fast and Furious, Avatar, Dances with Wolves, Uglies, Fern Gully, Point Break. I think you know what kind of movie I'm talking about.
Yeah.
This is a going native story from the point of view of the native. This is Avatar from Natiri's point of view, Zoe Saldana's character's point of view. This is Uglies from the point of view of the camp. This is Fast and Furious from the point of view of Dom. Or Point Break from the point of view of the blonde guy. I can't remember his Patrick Swayze's character. Like it's the same plot, and I love that. And I kind of would have loved to see like I don't know a spin-off story and another perspective story movie from Venom's point of view, from the symbiote's point of view, where like he's a loser on his home planet. He's sent to our world to do an invasion, falls in love with Eddie, realizes these people bad. I relate to this loser. Let's save this world, and directly defies the orders of his commander and fights against his commander to save the world. Like it's literally the Avatar. It's the same plot. Now, I do not say that as a bad thing.
Right.
It is its own microgenre. Saying that it is a going native story is not an insult any more than saying it's a time loop movie or saying it's a heist movie. But I would have loved to see it from that perspective.
Venom, but it's a time loop. And only Venom knows it. Eddie's mind gets reset every morning. Venom doesn't.
That actually sounds awesome. I hate it, but it sounds awesome.
Because Venom is already crazy. So Eddie would probably just think, oh, he's having another schizophrenic moment.
Yeah, like this film did keep portraying the symbiote as crazy, and I was like, no, he's hungry. He hasn't eaten, and Eddie won't let him eat except in very specific occasions. And I'm like, Eddie, if you want to stay with the symbiote, you gotta go be a superhero. You gotta go let him eat.
One question I have, though, and this is going back to Let There Be Carnage, because it's what's the freshest on my mind, and I haven't seen it in a couple months. Well, yeah, since October. Why didn't Eddie just take Venom to a cow farm, like a dairy farm? Why force him to eat chickens when a cow's brain is 20 times the size of a chicken's brain? That one cow would satiate Venom's hunger more than like 30 chickens would.
Okay, so the reason why they mentioned this in Let There Be Carnage, Venom does not eat brains; he eats phenylethylamine. It's a very specific chemical compound that is mostly found in human brains and chocolate.
Oh yeah,
It's not about the brain; it's about the stuff in the brain. Cow brains don't have phenylethylamine. I just looked up.
But
so like,
I didn't think that substance existed. I thought they made that up for the film. But do chickens' brains have that?
What was that?
Do chickens' brains have the phantom flapline?
Phenethylamine. Let me check because I
Phenethylamine.
assume they do. Otherwise, they wouldn't have included that joke. Yes.
Oh wow.
It is
Okay.
also, however, included in a couple of other uh, a couple of other animals. There were some other things they could do. It's mostly found in brains and chocolate, but there are some other animals that it's found in. Do we just want to make this a Let There Be Carnage episode also?
Yeah, I guess we can do that. 'Cause
Or do we
well,
just want to call a spade a spade?
well, we haven't really gotten into Let There Be Carnage all that much, and we can always we always could, but we haven't even
Let There
gotten
Be
to the
Carnage.
we haven't even got to the end of Venom yet.
Fair point. Fair point.
We haven't talked
so,
about Riot once.
the motorcycle chase.
Oh,
That was so cool, and it demonstrated so well what is cool about Venom. Like it made Venom look awesome.
Oh, it did. It really did. It was. Oh, car chases are fun. Bike chases are fun. Bike chases with tentacle monster is even better.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I
I don't want to say it.
I
I don't
also
want to say
kind
it, or else I'm gonna get. Oof.
but
Venom is living hentai.
yeah.
Okay. I was expecting a much more. Never mind. I was expecting a different
That's just
reaction.
it's just canon. Like I know
especially on
you're
DeviantArt.
trying to like say that as like a sour thought or like a mind blowing thing. That's just canon. Like remember in Let There Be Carnage when Carnage sends his tentacles around Shriek, and Shriek says that is so hot, and I'm like, oh, girl is a tentacle cake.
I didn't realize that. I didn't remember that.
Yep. That,
Oh my.
that's Venom. That said, gosh, I'm not sure if it was the same scene. Was it the same scene as the motorcycle chase? When Eddie's apartment gets invaded and Venom fights its way out.
I think that was before the motorcycle chase. I think that's what led to the bike chase.
That was also awesome.
Oh, that was very good. It reminded me of the film Upgrade in the way that they did the fighting and stuff, with Eddie like not in control of how he moved and stuff, and it was just really awesome to see Eddie get ragdolled around the room while Venom was just like beating up all the bad guys, or bad guys.
And if I remember correctly, and like Upgrade came out 6 months before Venom.
Yeah, it came out around the same time as Venom.
Yeah, I just looked it up. Upgrade came out in June. Venom came out in October of 2018.
Yeah.
Only person to compare the two movies.
Right. Well, and that's a strange thing that happens very often is two movies that are like very similar will come out within months of each other, and like I'm not sure whether it's like studios sharing notes or studios like stealing from one another or just like freak coincidences, but it happens way more often than you'd think.
I feel like there's a really obvious answer. Film is an art form. Artists get inspiration from life and from culture, and things happen in life that inspire artists.
Well,
And so a thing that inspires two different artists in very similar ways.
right. However, you've also got to take into consideration the fact that there was the thing with A Bug's Life and Ants, where that was sabotage. That was like canon. the dude who started DreamWorks and made Ants originally worked for Pixar on A Bug's Life, and when he left Pixar, when he was fired from Pixar, he went to Ants to make DreamWorks to make Ants to spite Pixar. So there is
Okay,
precedent
sure.
for the sabotage to happen. So that's why it's in it's in the cultural zeitgeist of these two films are very similar. Could this be sabotage? Now, obviously, your answer is probably
Yeah,
what's right in the situation, but that's always going to be in people's minds.
like I'm not gonna say that never happens. I'm just like people seem to forget that film is an art form.
Right.
Along those lines of like similar movies coming out at similar times. You remember that 2017 space movie called Life?
I do not. I don't.
Jake Gyllenhaal.
I no. I don't. I don't remember. I do not remember that. I don't think.
Okay, so the short version is this movie is about a six-member crew of the ISS, first evidence of life on Mars, and the life form attacks. The life form gets into the ship and then attacks everybody on the ship.
Okay, so kind of like
Rebecca Ferguson and Brian.
not Alien. Was it Alien Covenant where that happened, or was that Parasite?
I mean, there's a decent comparison to be made there with Alien or Aliens or Alien Covenant or one of them. I'm sure there is, but
Right.
like, I am not the first person to make the claim. This movie is a Venom movie. Like, I would not be at all surprised to find Sony saying that Life 2017 was actually a prequel to Venom, and I'm pretty sure it was made by Sony.
That would be very interesting. Although, I'm pretty sure it was explained in the film that the research they found the symbiotes on an asteroid, not on Mars. Because the ship,
Probably right.
I do think that is where they found the symbiotes, which retcons can
Probably
happen.
right.
Retcons can happen. I wouldn't be surprised if they did retcon. This is Sony. They are the people that made the Emoji Movie, so they've done
Gosh. It's a different studio.
well. It's still it's the same parent. But no, I do get that. But what I'm saying is
Yeah.
like
Like, comparing Sony Animation to Columbia Pictures is like comparing Lucasfilm to Pixar. Sure, they have the same parent company, but like they act very differently. They are literal different companies.
uh, you never know.
Or comparing Blumhouse to Illumination. Like, they're very different companies that are both owned by the same studio. I want to say Illumination is owned by Universal. I think it is. Might be DreamWorks. Yes, DreamWorks is owned by Universal. Still, like comparing Blumhouse to DreamWorks. Let me double check that.
Yeah, we should probably we probably should double check that. But no, that was what the whole I can't speak English. It was more like hyperbole than anything else. Cuz like I do get Sony Animation and Columbia Pictures are not the same thing. However, it's still Sony. So I wouldn't be surprised, but at the same time, they'd have to do a retcon and again, I wouldn't be surprised.
DreamWorks and Illumination are both owned by Universal.
Okay.
I was right on both. Anyway,
So,
what's another thing that you thought was awesome from Venom?
ooh, um, I don't know awesome. I don't know. Good, most of it. I don't know if there's anything else that I would consider to be like really awesome. To be honest.
I will say that fight between Venom and Riot when they became disconnected from their partners.
Oh yeah, that scene was
I know
nice.
it was a little difficult to follow, but like
It was.
from an artistic perspective, I was like, this looks so cool. I've
Oh,
never seen a Jackson
definitely.
Pollock movie before. Not a joke. That's not an insult. Like, I've seen cubism, I've seen surrealism, I've seen what's the word? Impressionism, I've seen Expressionism, I've never seen Pollock, and it was so cool to see Jackson Pollock on screen.
You want a Jackson Pollock movie? Take a blacklight to the Milano.
No, no, we're not going there. And like, and they made sure that the Jackson Pollock inspired portion of the film still had plot.
Oh,
I could still
definitely.
follow what was going on. I could still understand the stakes. I could still understand the characters, and it looked really cool. I also really appreciated that like this whole scene was basically a kid standing up to his was basically the loser kid standing up to his bully.
Right, and that I did. I liked the plot, as like loose, I guess, as the plot is. I did enjoy it because it's the plot is the tool that moves spectacle forward. Without plot, you really can't have too much spectacle. And even with as like I don't want to say basic of a plot because like the plot wasn't that basic. It just I don't think it wasn't it wasn't perfect. We'll say that. As unperfect as the plot was, I think it did a very good job at what it was trying to accomplish, which was a big fight between two symbiotes, one of which can form weapons out of its hands. Um,
Which was awesome. It
it
looked
was.
so cool.
It was. I wish that they would have made Riot a different color than gray. Like, this goes into the thing. I think Nando V Movies made coined it. It was the big gray Jeff Bridges BG JB. I think I'm not sure what it's called. Um, but it's like the MCU and like superhero movies have a problem where their big villains are just big gray monsters or suits of armor. There's not much color to them. And for someone like Riot, it would have been really cool to see a black symbiote in Venom versus like a blue symbiote in Riot, or like yellow, or like green. Like you could do any sort of color, and I think they went gray. I don't know why, because like there was a blue symbiote in the film. They could have just swapped color palettes on that. But it just, for me, it made the final
Well,
battle a little hard to follow when they were both very similar in color.
I could see that. I could see that. So I'm trying to find pictures of Riot online. I have found 7 different colors for this character.
In the comics?
Yes. Like his
Let me
profile
see.
picture on the Marvel Wiki is gray with red accents. A couple pictures of him are like generally he's gray. Generally,
Right.
sometimes you get a picture of him blue.
Right.
Sometimes you get a picture of him green. Like I don't know what color this character is supposed to be.
I
I have
think in the comics he's supposed to
never
be
read a Venom
gray.
comic, just for clarification.
Oh, okay, okay. I think in the comic he's supposed to be gray, but at the same time, if you look up pictures of Malekith from the comics, from the Thor films, he was supposed to be green, and, not green, blue and red, I think is what his colors were. And then in the comics he was just gray. He was just a gray dude. Malekith. I can get you an exact color.
Now,
Oh yeah, he's red and blue in the comics mostly, and he's wearing like a
now
really bright red blouse looking thing, and he looks very lively and colorful. And
they
in the
absolutely
movies, he's just
could
gray.
have. Now, for like color and aesthetics, they absolutely could have picked one of the symbiotes from one of the other symbiotes from Life Foundation. They could have picked Agni. They could have picked Scream. They could have picked Sleeper. They could have picked, or they could have said, "Well, I know they weren't in the Life Foundation, but we're using them anyway." I would recommend not Phage because he looks exactly like Carnage, but spiky.
Oh,
So that would have been a
Carnage is gonna
little
be.
unclear.
Yeah, I'm gonna save all of my comments on Carnage for the next video, which is gonna be going up from when y'all see it tomorrow, I think, because we're recording it tomorrow. For us, I'm pretty sure. I think that's because it's going up Saturday. Yeah, I think so. So I'm gonna save all of
So,
my comments for Carnage until then.
And what did you think of the tone of this movie?
So on a first watch through, I thought it was very good. I thought it was like streamlined, straightforward. On a second watch through, where I'm focusing solely on like aspects of the film, like I'm focusing on critiquing it and not just like watching it for enjoyment, I could definitely see that the tone was disjointed. It went from horror thriller to rom com to uh, like buddy cop to rom com to horror thriller. It was it with a critical eye. It was all over the place. Just watching it to enjoy it, like this last time, couldn't really tell. So
Um, yeah, I this may be a hot take coming from somebody who engages in critical analysis in film. Like, if the critical analysis is the only time that you notice the problem, then maybe it wasn't a problem.
agreed. Unless it's like a
Maybe.
plot hole. Like there are sometimes you can like not see like a character does something that that character would never do, or the plot is extremely inconsistent. Like those times you won't see it as a general audience, but you will with a critical eye, because they're like minute, but they're enough to be like, okay, this story is like it's going like this, like this, like this, and now it's up here. But at the same time, to a general audience, it will make no difference unless it's a big enough plot hole
I'm not.
that they fall into it.
Now, I should clarify. I am not saying that we should not use a critical eye. We
Oh,
should
right.
absolutely use critical thinking and critical analysis when we watch movies. To be clear, that is not the same as criticism, but that's the conversation for another day. What I am saying is that part of the purpose of critical analysis is not to figure out if the film worked, it's to figure out why the film worked or did not work for
Right.
you. Like, if the film worked and then you applied critical analysis and then it didn't work, no, the film worked. You just intentionally disengaged from the film and then it stopped working, and that's your fault, not the movie's fault.
I don't 100% agree in that scenario. I see where you're coming from in that. Especially if you go in like wanting to break down the film and say like, okay, it worked for me, but it shouldn't. But if you go in with the sense of I want to see like critically like seeing like, okay, what is the structure of the plot, what is the structure of the characters, and you find things that don't work under like a critical eye, I don't think that's your fault in a sense of if you're just watching the film to watch spectacle, you're not paying attention to any of like the minor details. For example, Rise of Skywalker. No, yeah, no, Last Jedi. I'm sorry. When I first watched that film, I loved it. After going back through and
I'm
looking at the
worried about
plot,
where this is going to go.
well, after going back through and looking at the plot without the spectacle in my mind, I started liking it less and less. Now, I'm not going to give any opinions on it aside from what I just said, but that's a case of I liked the film, I wanted to see, but I never looked at the plot the first time through. So I went back through to look at the plot. As I saw the plot, my enjoyment of it started to decline. And that could just be because I wasn't paying attention to what was meant to be paid attention to, which was big ship go boom through other ship, which was still an incredible scene.
Now, to continue to clarify, I'm not saying that spectacle is anything in the movie. I'm saying to engage with the emotions of the movie, and that critical analysis, and that if the emotions of the movie worked without critical analysis, and then you applied critical analysis and the emotions of the movie stopped working, I'm like, yeah, because you are analyzing your emotions, not feeling them.
Right, right. Although, and this is coming from from a state of for a long time I never felt emotions in films. Like what film was it? There was a film that came out before Avengers Endgame. Infinity War is what it was. Infinity War came out, and everybody that I went to see the film with was crying. The second time, at least, because I went with my dad first. But the second time I went with some friends, they all started crying at that scene at the end of the film after Thanos snapped. I didn't. Neither time I saw it. Endgame, however, I went to go see it. I cried twice, like once during Natasha's death and once during Tony's death. And from there, I have cried. I cried at the Eternals film, as well as the Suicide Squad. And I used to never cry at films. So there is something to be said about emotions really hitting hard. At the same time, though, emotion should not be the sole driver of your film. If your film is built on a structure that is unsound, but there are emotions, you're going to feel something, but that shouldn't be the sole that shouldn't be the sole reason that the film is the best thing in the world. For you, definitely, I completely agree. But I also have a belief that there are such thing as bad films, which I know you don't 100% agree with. But I think, like, in an objective sense, there is such thing as a bad film.
Believe that. Don't worry.
Oh, and it's all good. Like, I'm not discrediting any of your
beliefs. This is not
beliefs.
the time for me to get into why.
Oh, I get that. Which is why, like, I don't bring it up too
whatever
often.
The film, like, whatever you connect with, whether it's connecting with the emotion of the film, or the spectacle of the film, or the character of the film, or the tone, or just the vibe, like, the way I see it, connect with it.
Right.
And then critical analysis is understanding why you connected or why you didn't connect. It's not how to connect.
Right.
I guess it could be a way to connect if you are trying to connect with a deeply intellectual film. I can't think of any good examples off the top of my head, but something like, I don't know,
Inception?
What the bleep do we know, or something like that. That's the actual title of the film, by the way. What the bleep do we know? I'm not bleeping out anything. That's the name of the movie.
That's fine.
I guess like some like massively intellectual heady film where the point is to connect with your mind and not with anything else, where the point is to critically analyze the first time around. Anyway, point is, like, yeah, let yourself connect with whatever you connect with. Be in the moment, experience the film, and then afterward, understand yourself and the world and the art and life better through the lens of critical analysis. I find generally that critical analysis is intentionally disconnecting ourselves, so save that for after the experience and let yourself experience the experience while you're experiencing the experience.
I agree, and that's why I do my best to watch every film that I want to do a review on twice. Once with like turning like I don't want to say turning my brain off, but like focusing on the emotion and the spectacle the first time through to get that like yeah, and then the second time through sitting there like okay, I'm going to take notes, I'm going to pay attention to the plot and see if the plot makes any sense whatsoever, which I did to the Eternals, and it didn't, and I was sad because I really liked that film, but the plot made no sense to me. Which sucks. But at the end of the day, the emotions is what is going to carry your future like enjoyment of the film, not whatever the plot ended up being.
Now I should clarify. No, not clarify. I want to add something there.
Okay.
The more that you engage in critical analysis, the more naturally it becomes. To the point that, like, if you get really good at it, that the more you engage in, for example, thematic analysis, the more natural that becomes. And so eventually you sit in the theater and you're like, whoa, this is an allegory for such and such thing, and it suddenly hits you because you connect really deeply with that allegory. That is the thing that you connect with, and you connect deeply with that experience. That's what I loved about Eternals, because I was sitting in the theater and suddenly the allegory about deconstruction really hit me. We talked about this in the episode.
Right.
And like what I connected with really deeply was that allegory, and that wasn't something where I was like turning my brain on. I wasn't like trying to use critical analysis. I was just like, oh cool.
Right.
This is an allegory about it just happened. I'm not trying to brag. I'm not trying to be like, my gosh, I'm so good at thematic analysis that it just happens. I'm trying to say, like, keep doing it after the movie happens, and eventually it will become natural in ways that make you enjoy the movie more.
Right. Although for me, it's very difficult to separate like understanding themes from deconstructing the film because I do it so much nowadays. that I have to shut off a portion of my brain, the portion that deconstructs themes and like looks at themes and stuff, to get the emotions and spectacle. Else, I will just analyze the film in the theater, and that has ruined countless movies for me. That ruined Black Panther for me the first time I saw it because I was just analyzing the whole thing. And as much as I enjoy like what the message it's trying to send and all that sort of stuff, it didn't. The emotions didn't resonate to me because I was thinking logically, quotation marks there, about a film that for a first time viewing I should have been viewing emotionally. And I had to learn emotions first, logic second, so that way you don't miss something and then the next time you watch it, it doesn't mean the same thing.
Yeah, and like I was saying, this isn't about like intentionally. This isn't about like turning your brain off or turning your brain on. It's just about being in the moment and letting
Right.
yourself experience whatever you're experiencing in the moment instead of like constantly analyzing your own emotions and constantly being outside yourself and looking down on yourself and looking down on your experience and being like, am I experiencing the right thing? No, just let yourself experience it. I'm not trying to sound like a therapist, but like feel your feelings, experience whatever you're experiencing, be in the moment, be present, be mindful,
Close your eyes and
understand
count to
why
10.
you're connected to that thing in that way.
If any, I gotta say, if anyone takes any therapy from this show, from this podcast, I'm gonna be scared because I give the worst advice when it comes to therapy. Like, don't ever come to me if you need like counseling or anything, because more than likely I will tell you to go punch whatever it was that hurt you, and that's not what you want to do.
If you actually do want therapy, go see a therapist. But
Oh, agreed.
otherwise, there is a YouTube channel called Cinema Therapy for a reason.
I love cinema therapy. Oh, it's the two guys that sit on the like the recliners and they talk about the emotions and so. I love that channel.
Yeah, it's great. Um, I've been genuinely using film as a form of therapy over the past few months.
That's good.
Partly because I can't afford therapy, and partly because I
I
can't afford a
feel
movie ticket,
that.
and partly because um, well, mostly I get the movies from the library anyway. But
Right.
partly because it's worked. It's helped me to understand myself and love myself and understand the world and understand life in ways that I'd never got to before. And it's helped me to legitimately heal. It's one of the
I
things I love about movies.
I that's really good actually. I don't get the same from that. Like I can't I have tried. I don't really have the same capacity for therapy in general. But like film and stuff, I don't have the same. I don't know. I guess experience when it comes to like film and therapy. And honestly, I probably need a therapist. Also, I'm broke, and I would do not want my parents paying for a therapist for me because I would rather take care of myself in that sense. Which I know it sounds bad, but at the same time, it's like they've taken care of me so much. I want to feel like I can take care of myself for that, especially if I'm going to be living on my own here soon. But at the same time, I've been using like prayer times and like sitting down and like opening my Bible, and that has helped me more than I ever thought it would. Which is it's very refreshing to be able to feel happy after years of depression, and I found that personally in God. Now, everyone's going to find it in something different. And I'm not saying what's right for me or what's right for you is going to be right for somebody else. Somebody else might find therapy in music. Somebody else might find therapy in emoji pillows, which you can't see, but they're on my couch over there. Someone might find therapy in their friends. Everybody finds their solace in something different. But I agree, it's very good to have a therapist. Um, I'm a hypocrite in that sense, but I'm also not the wealthiest person in the world. Eventually, I will have one, but for now, I find my therapy in other places.
Dude, I'm just happy that you find what helps you. Um, What are
Also,
some
listening to less
okay,
politics. Listening to less politics made me a lot happier as a person.
to there, it can be a very mentally difficult subject.
Oh,
What are some
very.
other things you would love to see in a Venom movie? I would kind of love to see. I know this sounds really stupid. Mean Girls, but with Venom.
Oh.
That would be a movie entirely set on Clintar.
Oh, that's incredible. I was just gonna say Spider-Man, but I think you win. I was gonna try to do my best J. Jonah Jameson impression and just start talking about Spider-Man, but that's
Right, yes, you
perfect.
want to see pictures of Spider-Man.
I want pictures of Spider-Man.
That was not bad.
Why, thank you. Um, in all reality, though, like I would like to see, and we've talked about this in the past. I want to see in either No Way Home or I think we're gonna get a Spider-Man versus Venom film before the next trilogy. I would like to see Venom bond with Spider-Man in the first act or like in the final act of No Way Home. Have Venom like in the post-credit scene have Venom bond to Peter. Then in the end, like the end of the first act of Spider-Man versus Venom, have Peter get rid of Venom and I don't know, disgrace Eddie in some way, and they both like they grow disdain towards Spider-Man, and then they bond again, and then we get the big fight against Spider-Man, but this time Venom to taunt Spider-Man, big spider, just massive white spider. All like the veins and stuff in his body, they all just like form into this giant veiny spider on his chest. I think that would look amazing. And really, I just want the I just want the spider symbol. That's really all I want at this point.
You want pictures of Spider-Man.
Yes, pictures of Spider-Man.
So a
Oh,
couple things that I would kind of love to see in an upcoming Venom movie. I mentioned at the beginning of the podcast that I would love to see Null.
yes.
Like just go all the way, bring in Null. I'd love to see Dark Carnage. I know we're not going to get Dark Carnage, but I want Dark Carnage.
I want more Carnage. Like, again, I'll talk about this tomorrow, but like, oh, there's a
Just
lot
not
of
enough.
Carnage. There's a lot of comic
Um,
stories that we're never gonna get to see now because Sony was so. Oh, I'm not gonna say cowardly, although it might work. I don't know. I'll find a
I would
term.
love to. I would love to see Venomverse.
I don't think I've heard of that.
It's a what if story where everyone on the planet became venomized. Uh-huh. Okay, actually, I
Oh,
should clarify. Half the planet became venomized.
oh,
The
yeah,
other
'cause that
half
makes
got taken over. Oh, no, no, no. The other half got taken over by things that eat symbiotes. By parasites that eat symbiotes. They were called poison. First off, like,
Oh, I
venomized
have heard
rocket
of
raccoon.
this. Oh, I have heard of this
Yes,
story.
okay,
I'm
yes, you know what
such
this
an
is.
idiot.
Like venomized Rocket Raccoon, Poison Captain America, Poison Deadpool. They all just have such cool character designs, and I'm like, I want that. I want that on screen.
That would be amazing. That'd be an amazing what if episode. If the
Uh
episode was longer,
huh.
that is. There's a
Kind
lot of
of
stuff we could do with what if.
a little bit like the Marvel Zombies episode, and it was a what if story in the comics.
Did you hear that they're making a Marvel Zombies TV show based off the episode?
Yeah.
That is going to be so good. I am so excited for that.
I would love to see Agent Venom,
Definitely.
and I would love to see the symbiote leave Eddie and go have a host like for a prolonged period of time. I know both Venom and Let There Be Carnage get into the symbiote leaving Venom. No, I mean like that. I mean like Eddie not being the host for like the entire movie. Make Flash Thompson the host. Make Dylan Brock the host. Something like that. The
Or
entire movie, maybe
or
like 5 minutes of him being with Eddie.
or send them back in time and have it bond to a T-Rex. Or
You
send it to the
realize
Savage
how
Land.
awesome that is, right?
Hmm?
You do realize how awesome that sounds, right?
It sounds so awesome. Venom dinosaur. Or, well, at one point we need to introduce the Savage Land, because if Wolverine's coming, then like he operates a lot out of the Savage Land. And once that happens, then we get dinosaurs in modern day, which hopefully will lead to my favorite Marvel character of all time in Reptile. Like, I know him solely from the Superhero Squad show from when I was like 10. But he has the ability to either shapeshift his entire body into that of a dinosaur, or later on in the show, just individual limbs. Like he can have a T-Rex head and Bronchosaurus legs and pterodactyl wings. And then like a chest that's just like a raptor
That
or something.
I love
love
awesome.
his character.
Though it sounds like it would fit better in animation. It sounds like it would feel really weird in live action. I also think it'd be kind of cool to have like the entire Venom family get together.
Oh, that would be
We've
fun.
had at this point we've had Venom, Riot, and Carnage, and we've had Shriek, who is definitely a Venom character. Like, I would love to see like bring in Phage and Lasher and Agony and Scream and Sleeper. Yes, I'm just looking at the Marvel wiki.
And don't
but I
forget
think it'd be
Toxin.
so cool, just like and Toxin, and like have all of them in one movie.
Now, just based on this film and next film, I don't think that's possible. Like the entire family, at least. Because we know from this film Riot is dead. Well, we don't know, but he blew up in a rocket, and his one of his two weaknesses is fire. Riot is presumably just like dead. And then we'll get into Carnage's fate in the end of that movie tomorrow. But so those two individuals, I don't think would be able to join the family, which sucks mostly because Maximum Carnage was incredible, and I would have loved to see that in the movies. But you know, it is what it is.
Don't have Riot or Carnage come back, but bring in like Anti-Venom. Bring in Silence, because Silence is just so cool. Like have like 7 different symbiotes in one movie. Have it be not quite an ensemble movie, but treat it like a Bat Family movie kind of thing.
So,
but for Venom.
Okay. Let's pitch this film right now. Okay, give me 5 symbiotes.
Anti-Venom, Toxin, Venom, Silence, and Scream.
Okay, now let's pick a villain. Give me a villain.
Wait, before we get too much further into pitching this, if I may include in the pitch, the symbiotes are recognized internationally.
Ooh.
Venom comes out of the closet, kind of like he does in the next movie, but like very public about the fact that no, we are a different species, we are aliens, we are here, we're not going away, but we just need to not be killed. Please don't kill us. That's all we're asking for. We won't hurt you. Don't hurt us. And it turns out that that doesn't work because
Obviously.
they kind of need to eat people in order to survive, and
Right.
so they go on like very much like a Krakoa thing from the comics, from the X-Men comics. I think that'd be a really cool way to approach it. Anyway, so jumping back to a villain, what if Mac Gargan is the villain and Venom is bonded to him, and so Venom is the villain this time around?
Venom Scorpion. Ooh. That sounds...
Oh yeah, that's a thing in the comics.
I know. That sounds very cool to see. So then we would need one more. Oh, because I was thinking 5 good symbiotes and then like a villain. Unless we want. Ooh, what if?
Cool. Let's.
What about Carnage? Bonded to Matt Gorgon.
That's terrifying. That is
Yeah.
terrifying. Can we also have Agony? Or not Agony. Can we also have Lasher?
Lasher. Yeah, you're the one pitching the pitching the film.
Because Lasher is bonded to a dog.
Oh, he's a very
So
stabby
imagine,
good
like,
boy.
five symbiotes, and they're good doggo.
It's just Scooby Doo. It's just Scooby Doo. We have to make it a mystery.
Okay.
We have to set it on Clintar and make it a mystery. A mystery film.
So, wait, where were you going to take this pitch?
Well, I was thinking 5
You got
symbiotes
5
and
symbiotes,
then
you got symbiote
Null
villain.
versus Null. Like, sort of like Null
Yes!
wants to retake all the symbiotes into his true form, and they have to defeat him before he can absorb Clintar and all of the symbiotes on it. And so I was thinking you have Venom, Carnage, Anti-Venom, Toxin, and like Screech, not Screech, the female, like the female symbiote. I cannot remember her name. And then Scream, thank you. And then like they're the only ones who are not under Null's control because they were on Earth at the time of him taking over Clintar. So if they travel back to Clintar, maybe throw Spider-Man in there for good measure, and they fight Null, and then you can kill. Honestly, I would say kill Venom, Scream, and Toxin.
That's a good time to say Venom series is over. Venom can die. Once you introduce Null, you've gone as far as you can with this concept.
Well, I'm not saying like Venom.
And you say we're packing up and going up.
Right. Well, I'm not saying like Venom dies. I'm saying Venom is absorbed, Scream is absorbed, and Toxin is also absorbed. So you're left with Carnage and Spider-Man and the one other.
And the good doggo.
And the good doggo and last year. So it's literally Spider-Man, a serial killer in Carnage, and a dog versus versus Null with Venom, Toxin, and Scream all like absorbed into him. And so like it would end up. I would want it to be Carnage winning out, like getting the final blow, and then like just attacking Spider-Man almost instantly after killing Null or like imprisoning Null. Like you'd get Null either died or imprisoned, and then instantly Carnage just like, okay, now it's your turn, Webhead. And then like Venom would like come back and save Spider-Man or something. I don't know. I didn't think that far ahead.
That does sound cool though. A Venom family, a dog fighting Null as he takes over Clintar. I think it'd be really interesting to see like more of the dynamic of Venom with the other because like clearly there was a society back on Clintar,
Yeah.
and clearly he was a reject from that society, and I think it'd be really cool to see him like be reluctant to go back to Clintar because he's like, those people all hate me.
Oh, definitely.
And he's like, no, you gotta go anyway. And him going back to Clintar and actually dealing with these people who think that he's a loser and who think that he's a kind of a traitor for loving humans.
Oh, yeah. And though, like, so for that pitch, the reason I wanted Carnage to win is because for some reason, it is, like, drilled into the heads of producers that the title hero has to win, which, thank the Lord, like, Infinity War broke that cycle of superhero films, but at the same time, like, Endgame brought it back. I want to see a film where the hero does not win. Like, he loses everything, and there is no, like, redemption for that. I would love to make a show titled, like, let's say, Farm Boy or something, just for example. And in the end of the film or show, the title character is killed by the villain, and the villain goes off, and like it's just over. Because like we never get stories like that. It's always the good. It's almost always, I should say, the good guys win. They kill the bad guys, and then that's it. I don't know. I just think having a film where the bad guy wins out no matter what, and there's no sequel to rectify it, I think that'd be very interesting to see.
I think what you're looking for is film noir. I haven't seen that much film noir. Or
I'll
you're
have to
looking
look
for
into that.
horror. One of the two.
Well, even in horror films, like if you're looking at, like Alien is technically a horror film. Sigourney Weaver's character wins in the end. Terminator, the Terminator's defeated in the end. In a lot of horror films, like the villain is either beat or the good guys like survive to like have another movie. And unless I'm wrong, it's not very often where it's just dread. Like the end of the film is just death.
You have a point. Maybe 70s, 60s sci-fi movies where like the end is, and then nuclear bomb came along and everyone died. Okay, that's reductive, like extremely reductive. Like it was responding to Cold War threats.
Right. No, like I think that would be very interesting.
What I really like about the ending of the pitch that you just gave is that the hero loses, but good still wins out.
Right.
It's just that the hero is not the personal embodiment of good. Like, the good guys still win, it's just that the hero isn't the one who saves them.
Right,
It's the villain who teamed up with them, very much in an X-Men style.
Right. And then, like, of course, I had to throw in the whole Carnage just turns on Spider-Man immediately because it's Carnage, it's Cletus Cassidy. He's insane. But, like, in the end, like, I think when it comes to the Venom family, even just having, like, honestly anything would be very interesting to see the dynamic.
Mostly, I just want Lasher at this point.
Agreed. We need a stabby good boy.
I can imagine Eddie and Venom going and I can imagine Vetty actually is the ship name. Venom and Eddie going and buying a German Shepherd puppy so that they can have a deeper bond with the puppy and calling it Lasher.
And then he gets a symbiote because that's awesome.
Yeah, like that feels like the kind of thing that would happen in these kinds of movies, and just having a symbiote German Shepherd running around Eddie's small apartment.
They should name it, like, Eddie should name it Scooby, like, in the beginning, and then as soon as it's, like, bonded to the symbiote, it starts calling itself Lasher. And Eddie's like, oh, come on, can I not have one nice thing? And then Venom's just like, what are you talking about? This is nice. This is more than nice. This is amazing.
One last thing that I kind of want to bring up. I just think this is cool. So, Kyle Hill did a Because Science episode where he asked, what kind of symbiote is Venom? Because there are two different types of symbiotes. There are parasites and there are mutualists.
Right.
Venom takes umbrage to the word parasite, partly because that's not what he is, and partly because parasite was the specific word that the Clintar used to bully him back on his planet.
Eesh.
At least, I think, from the comics, that was the specific word. A little bit like, a nerd getting called Four Eyes. Yeah, if that nerd grows up and someone calls him Four Eyes, he's gonna be like, dude, don't call me Four Eyes. That's rude. And so at the end of Venom 1, when Eddie calls him a parasite, Venom's like, don't call me a parasite! And like, oh yeah, I get why you don't want to be called a parasite. And Eddie's just like, no, it's a term of endearment! Dude, don't call him parasite.
Right.
So he's not a parasite, he's a mutualist. But more specifically, he is Go ahead.
He kind of has... So the symbiotes can kind of have the tendencies of parasites, because mostly what a parasite is it it feasts on its hosts or like its host innards in order to reproduce and procreate. And so, like, the symbiotes do have the potential to do that, but they are more of the other kind of symbiote than parasite 90% of the time because they don't want to die. Without a host, they will.
Yeah, mutualism. What makes him a mutualist is that it's a two-way benefit.
Right.
But more specifically, he is a viscous mutualist, which means that he's kind of gooey. Viscous means gooey. He's an ectosymbiotic mutualist, meaning that he's on the outside of the body. He's not like inside the bloodstream or anything like that. Sometimes he is, sometimes he isn't. He is a neuroactive mutualist because like he's affected by the brain and affects the brain, and he is an obligate mutualist. An obligate being something that's restricted to a particular condition of life. He can't live without a host.
Gotcha.
He is a viscous ectosymbiotic neuroactive obligate mutualist. Venom. This is not my idea. This is because Science with Kyle Hill.
I love that channel. Oh boy. I feel like I feel like that was more working backwards from an anagram to get some kind of a result, but in the end it works. So I guess we can go.
I'm not sure if it was a coincidence or if he was trying really, really hard to make it spell Venom, but it worked, like you said.
Okay, and honestly, I think that is a perfect piece of trivia to leave the episode on. We've been talking for nearly 2 hours, and we only planned on talking for 50 minutes. So, anyway, thank you guys so much for tuning in. If you guys enjoyed, please make sure to hit that like button and subscribe if you're new to the channel. Go check out the socials down below. It's mostly TikTok. Hunter posts a lot of TikToks. I barely post any, so definitely go follow him. Also, do you want to plug your... Oh, the Kickstarter's over. Is it, or is it still going? I don't remember.
Yeah, today, the day that we're filming this, being December 2nd, the Kickstarter for my found footage Dracula movie just finished. And coming up, we're going to be filming it really soon and then releasing it sometime in 2022. We're still working on an exact date.
All right, well, we will make sure to keep all of you posted about this found footage Dracula film and any other like film projects that come in the works between the two of us. You guys will be probably the second, aside from your channel, to know about any Kickstarters, any special events, anything like that coming up. I hit my microphone again. Stay tuned on the channel for more Spider-Cember content coming tomorrow with Spider-Man, good lord, with Venom. Let there be carnage, and take it easy.